Yo, that is so funny that you guys have that connection, bro. That's fucking awesome.
Dope, right? It's awesome. I was like, there's no way this guy's a West Coast cat. He's way too energetic. You know what I mean? He's way more of an East Coast cat. It makes so much more sense now.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
he's hot land.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked. I'm joining. I'm sitting for Whale at Ego. He asked me like late last night. I was like, "Are you fucking serious?"
Wait, did everyone already get invited to Ego?
I don't know. Whale, did everybody?
Because you're my long
go?
still, but T invited me to fucking he was born in
You're just
Alaska.
invited to sit. I don't know if you're invited to participate. I know, but T will probably put in a good word for Brandon. No invites yet. There you go.
Okay, cool. All right.
And he was born
Because they're the same time, right? Ego and Legends of Hash.
No, I don't. And if it is,
They're not.
then I can't go because I have to go to Legends. But I don't think they're the same day.
Oh, I thought you were telling me
No,
they were the same.
I was saying that, but Ego's not confirmed. So Ego is on
Okay.
Friday before Emerald. But what I was saying was that Camp Heal Thyself is, which I wanted to go to Ash Camp of and like meet Flynn and all those guys. They are the same weekend as Legends, so I won't be going to that. But the yeah, it's the Friday. It's the night before Emerald Cup. So if Emerald announces and they say that they're doing it on December 3rd, then yeah, I might not be able to go to Ego, but I hope they don't.
What is the judging like for Emerald Cup? Like if I enter Hash in Emerald Cup, what is that like?
I think you have to enter it a lot earlier. But I've never been a part of it. Like I know that there's breaking it up into 4 categories. And they're like, yeah, I actually, it's quite a thing, the Emerald Cup judging now. So I think they have different committees, different judges. Yeah, it's a joke nowadays. You're like
Professor P hit me up and was like, "Yo, are you gonna enter into Emerald Cup?" And I was like, "I don't know. I didn't even really think about it. Like, am I allowed? Like, I don't." So I
I
was
think
giving
it's a
some
fairly
thought.
large entry queue. I think it's like quite a lot more significant than 8 grams. Like I think we're in the 30s.
Ooh, that is brutal.
They do the judging part of the competition in the spring and then the event in December. So
Oh, so I already missed it. Cool. Thank you, Whale. You're being on top of shit.
Yeah.
Dope.
But yeah, I mean, I would try and enter. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean everything else is like invite only. So it's like I can't enter unless.
Oh, and you have to
they
pay
let me, right?
$500 US per entry. Plus.
Oh, dude, brutal.
Little extra fun.
That's highway robbery. That's rough. Yeah, Jameson, your system is so real. You're just like everyone pays the same price per ticket, and you can enter or not. Right? It's just like so.
Yeah.
It's so simple. It's so proper. It's great.
Yeah.
Very minimal money gouging. Like I get that the ticket cost wasn't cheap, but I think the fact that you actually get all the meals you want makes it really pretty reasonable. So.
Yeah. No, I think that was like the format around there and the ticket and the entry, like there was no pushback around that. Like I think everybody very much enjoyed it. It was like anytime I told people, it's like, well, what do I have to do to enter? It's like, oh, you just have to buy a ticket. It's like, oh, okay, that seems very reasonable. So
yeah, that seems like that makes a lot of sense.
Like I'm all about being reasonable and fair, and so
it showed.
I want to have more of these events. So like even if they're break even or whatever, like we got to make them make sense and make them into a thing the same way, like pickup basketball tournaments came into a thing. And so
I thought you did such a fucking good job with all of the sponsors. It wasn't tacky. Like, I hate advertising as much as anybody, but it was super tasteful. Everything was on brand. You weren't advertising for fucking Colgate. You know what I mean? Like, it made sense. It was super proper, and I think that's such a cool way to kind of. That's why it gets to grow, and that's why we get to do it again. Is because you did such a fucking good job at sponsoring, and then the ticket sales. It's like it just felt really balanced, and everything felt even. Where you didn't have to jack up the ticket prices, but it also wasn't so many sponsors that it was like, what do we even stand for anymore? So that felt really balanced, I thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think you have to have the sponsors. I think that you just choose the right ones that are relatable to the event, that you can really deliver value to. Like, I mean, I'll just say this, like, you know, the amount of value that Melting of the Heads delivered to Hashtag is fucking immeasurable. Like, permanently and forever immeasurable for that company.
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
Like, I'll say it all. That company forever should be indebted to me. And I haven't even dropped the 15-minute Instagram video, or the 15-minute professionally done, not Instagram, professionally done video that, like, because I didn't do a good enough job directing the camera guys to capture shots of the other sponsors who were so great in supporting us, this video is really a 15-minute promo video for Hashtag by some of the best subject matter experts in North America. But what I wanted it to be was more of like a promo video for all the sponsors, but I didn't accomplish that. So that's on me. But the amount of value once I dropped this video for Hashtag, it's like, my dad watched the video today and he's like, so like this video is worth 50 grand, like to Hashtag, just as is.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, oh,
hell yeah,
for sure. And like, and I'm not gonna ask for a single dollar, but like, I just want all the sponsors to feel that, right? Like, it's like, you want to be associated with this event. You want to have your Q-tips on the table. You want to have your dab stations, you know, whatever it may be.
Bagger baskets, right? All the dope shit.
All that stuff was cool and you know, on par. And, you know, I wanted to, my biggest mistakes, I didn't, like, I should have at least announced top 5 and I should have let every one of I should have lengthened out the award ceremony. We're all about hash. We're all about resin. We're all about coming together and flying across the world from different countries to come talk about resin. And then I didn't give any individuals but number one chance to come up and say something. Whereas I think looking hindsight, should have given them all a chance to come up and say something, at least top 3, if not top 5.
Maybe. It's emotional, dude. It's fucking shit is emotional. Like, I like the winner talking, but I think you could do a podium, or like, I think there should be everyone standing in the front of the room, at least a good picture. And then
there needs to be a giving of something. I regret not having something for 3rd and 2nd, and then, you know, maybe announcing from 5th. I'm considering even announcing from like 8th. Because the competition was so good.
Well, we're gonna have top 8 anyway. So if you make top 8, you're already kind of.
I'm talking about, like, I'm gonna create a post this next week.
Oh, okay. Oh, you are
5 or top 8, and I'm like considering top 8 because I'm like, fuck, man, there's nothing wrong with 8th in this fucking competition. You know what I mean? Like,
dude, hell no.
It's a steep fucking competition. You know, so
the only other competition I think I've entered, I got 17th at.
Yeah.
And it was like out of over, I mean, I think it was like almost 100 entries, you know? And it's like 17th is fucking not bad, you know?
8 out of 21,
that was like
21's not bad.
Right, right. Especially when it's international. Like, you know what I mean? Like, my shit was a main, like, I entered a main competition and I got 17th out of whatever, but all those people were in driving distance of the competition. So it's not the same as, like, you're already such a high level to care enough to fly somewhere to enter your hash. So, like, I think the bottom 3 hashes were still probably pretty fucking fire.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, it's all we were splitting hairs. Like, it was so. Usually, there's like I just judged a competition where I could eliminate 50% of the resin without consuming it easily, and that was not this. That was not Melting of the Heads. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, top 5 or top 8 will be announced, but like, that was like hindsight what I would change about the competition was like making sure like the runners up were celebrated a little bit more than I did that. And then, but yeah, like the ticket, the entry, like probably the intake of
A
the
cool thing to do when you go to announce the person is describe the hash before you announce the victory.
yeah, that'd be cool.
So you'd be like, this air dried resin makes the whole room smell like lemons and grapefruit and pink lemonade, Roskaya Paul. Like you know what I mean? Like I think that's like, especially at the end of the tournament with the head-to-head, like we're gonna all know the colors, so it's gonna be like everyone's gonna be on the edge of their seat. So the more you can drag that part out, like, you know, I think it'll be really fun to be like, it was the grapiest.
Oh yeah,
you know, like just
you can definitely put some showmanship. I can do that for sure.
yeah, you would do great at that, right? And just try to get 3 sentences worth of just, you know, like bullshit fluff, but like it'll be fun, you know.
Yeah, no, I think that like if that's I can already tell with Adam there and the support he's going to be able to give and you and all that, it's just going to be a lot easier for me to like, yeah, I can definitely accomplish that. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah. You were swamped. You're going to be so much more in your zone in the pocket. It's going to be awesome. And I think doing the interactive speech thing is going to really have you in your zone.
Yeah.
It's going to keep you like on it. It's going to be good.
Yeah, that's where it's like, you know, I'm here to like ask this person questions to get them like on track to deliver the most valuable. Like that's where I'm best. So like you put me there, I'm happy, and then I get to judge hash and I'm happy. And then, you know, there's a few other people working out the logistics of the event as they unfold. I'm fucking a pig in shit. So that.
Hey, do you think that what was I gonna say? Do you think you should be able to take more than one dab when you're judging of each thing?
Yeah, totally. I think that
okay.
Like, if it's head to head and like I need to take a quick second, like I think that there should be a time slot, and I think it's 15 minutes, but then we have to like see how long this is going to take. Maybe it's 10 minutes where you can take 3 dabs if you want, but cool. You know, you can take 1 dab, you can take 1 low temp dab, you can take a big dab, you can take a small dab, you can take 2 dabs. You make your notes, you talk about it like Adam said, and then ding, 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 that dab gets taken off the table. The next one gets put on. You're voting yes and no after the 20 minutes, the 2 10-minute windows, and then you move on to the next one. Like, and my concern is only that how long is that going to take? If you have top 8, then
so first round is 4. First round's only 4. So even if they're half-hour sessions, it's only 2 hours.
Yeah,
it's not that bad.
That's fine.
But what happens is if you do all the way to 8th place, you end up creating a lot more rounds than you realize. And I can kind of draw it out so it's easier to understand. But because everybody that loses then has to keep going, so you end up with a pretty good amount of rounds. But I can draw it out and figure out the total number. But I think a half an hour per round is not that crazy, you know? Because you imagine you're going to release a half an hour YouTube video of each round individually, right? And then it would be like, you'd be able to go through and watch it, and it'd be like 16 episodes or whatever. Like, that'd be a really fun series to sit down and watch with your homies. So.
So cool. If it was a half an hour round, it would probably be like a 7 to 9 minute video, but like we would capture clips of everybody talking about the numbers. But then when we show the YouTube video, you'd be like we'd have like an insert here at the bottom of the screen saying like number 9 is Lightspeed and number 8 is XYZ. And then you could yeah, that'd be very cool.
It'd be very fun. It'd be super fun.
It's like it is on the evolutionary path to Hash House. You know what I mean? Like to Adam's vision of Hash House. It's like,
Well, so you have to do the exact opening announcement of Real World. So it has to be like 8 strangers come smoke hash in a house. Like, it has to be the same cadence and the same like opening credits, you know?
that's how we keep our palate fresh. I mean, a lot of us are smoking a lot of hash all day, and 4 rounds or 8 rounds, 8 dabs isn't an over ask. And there's going to be juice and coffee beans and things like that, but there's always going to be like judging hash is very much like judging art, and so everybody's always going to have their opinion on how somebody could do it better or how they might do it, and my comment is like, dope, go out and do it. You know what I mean? Like we clearly put a lot of thought into how we do it, and like we're not saying it's perfect. That's why we're on here being like, man, we can do this better, and like, what do you think about this and what do you think about that? So like, yeah, it's the true, I think like the true hash comp that you can't poke a hole in might be the proven professionals, proven palettes having 20 entries and then judging those entries on their first dab of the day every day for 20 days. But,
and I think in the future we will have a effect tournament. Like that's down the road. We're not there yet. We will do that. But I will tell you, from someone entering competitions, I enter things based on what I think a burnt out palate is still gonna like. So if you're entering something that's easy to muddle out, and then you're like, oh, people didn't have a fresh palate, they didn't like it. It's like, yeah, no crap. You knew the judges were going to sit there and smoke hash all day. So you have to enter things that don't need palate cleansing. You need to enter the hammers, you know what I mean, that are going to hammer through like all the other flavors and shit. And that's why you see GMO was winning a lot of stuff for a long time. And same with oranges, because orange and GMO really cut through. And now most judges are just bored of that shit. It still cuts through, but now they don't like it. So now you got to get more crafty. Like I need something that cuts through like a GMO, but I need something that's desirable like a Skittles, right? So
yeah.
That's you got to know people are going to kind of be, they might get a little flavor blind, and what comes through is probably what's going to win.
And part of competing you need to understand is understanding the rules and regulations of your competition, the judges. Like that's part of competing in any sport. So when people start going, oh, that's bullshit because the competition rules are like this and like this, it's like all sports have rules that are stupid that we have to act within. And so your ability to navigate those rules, interpret them, and then still succeed within them is part of the competition, Mm-hmm. So those are all things competent.
When I was a young wrestler, I was told that if you lose because of something the referee did, then you weren't winning by enough points. So if the judge or the referee is capable of making you lose, then the margin for your victory wasn't big enough, and that's still on you, right? So that's how I approach everything. So if don't be all, oh, the judge is this and the judge is that. It's like, well, if you were really enough better, then the judges wouldn't be able to, you know what I mean? They wouldn't be able to really do much because the margin for victory should be super clear. But that's just a weird thought pattern that I go through, and not saying that's for everybody.
Like Brandon is the most winningest hash maker, I think, in the world. And how he won all these competitions was he paid attention to the rules. He entered his entries right at the last moment, dried them up as fresh as he could, delivered them on time in good condition. Like that was just following the rules. If you could have interpreted the rules as, oh well, the competition submission opens on this day, so I'm going to be the first one to get my hash in, and you might learn that's probably not the best thing.
Maybe don't do that. That's part of the competition.
Absolutely.
Is the quality you bring your hash in is you're already like, as soon as you as soon as you pop the seed, the competition has begun, right? Competition goes way back.
Today, kind of calling me out because like I served Rosenberg and Hova their melt, and I served them in 2 trays, and
Yep.
Whale was 4 and 5, and Whale was not stoked that he was 4 and 5 because they smoked 1, 2, and 3 first, and his melt sat there, and he feels like, you know, maybe those, and I that's fair. And so it's like, you know, there's so much that goes into the competition.
I think 4 and 5 is very good. Like, if you tell me you got 4th and 5th, I'm like, that's fucking so good, right?
What up, Johnny? He was talking about. So I brought out the entry, the melt entries, and I brought out for the 1 to 5, and he was number 4 and 5, and so he was like, I would have preferred my entries to stay in the fridge while they smoked 1, 2, and 3, and then smoked my entries. I didn't want my entries sitting on that plate for the, you know, hour that it took them to go through 1, 2, and 3. And so therefore I wasn't judged fairly against my peers. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like,
yeah, he's not wrong.
Yeah,
you're not wrong.
You're not wrong.
Kaya air dried all of his shit, so it didn't matter when you smoked it. So that's another reason I think Kaya won, because he's like, I air dried everything. It's time proof.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sitting over here with freeze dried volatile terps. Like, I hope they smoke it soon. So you know what I mean? You might have beaten me, but I doubt you would have beaten Kaya because he time proofed all of his entries. So you know, it's hard to say. I don't know. It's something though.
What up, Johnny?
What up, Johnny?
How you doing, brother?
Well, as you're talking about that, I was gonna say, it just reminded me, like when me and Raymond won the first place for Canadian Concentrate Open after Tim did all these competitions. This is back in like 2014 or whatever, and I'm like, I'm gonna come in at the end and win with dry stuff. We'll just walk in and win first place, and he laughed at it. So everybody, you have to win, you have to compete every month in order to be in the final. I'm like, no, that's how we're gonna do it. I showed up with the cooler 2 hours late, last submission. Opened it up. I took out the Congolese. It was Remo had grown it. I cleaned it. I mean, I totally cleaned it. I took like a pound and cleaned it down to like 6.5 grams of just pure heads. Walked in. I took it out of the cooler. I walked downstairs, put the cooler in the car. When I came back up, I walked up the stairs of Cannabis Culture. I could smell the Congolese, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm fucking winning. People were laughing, and it has to be fresh. And I've judged so many cups. I have a bin downstairs in almost every cup over the last decade. Someone wanted to know the last one, that's Mom's cup, and she wanted to have the thing. I went downstairs, pulled it out of there. And the guys who enter at the end have the freshest. Like, don't send it in early. I mean, and like you said, it should be, you can't take out a full melt and leave it sit on the counter. It's got to be, you got to have that stuff so it's judged properly, and then how to judge it.
The winning rosin of melting of the heads was a late entry that got jarred up. That got jarred up from the baller jar like 2 minutes before it was delivered to the judges.
Okay, so when I tested all of the AW water activity in the rosin when Dave Gastown did that one on the island, it was epic. Westfest. And I brought my AW meter. And you know what? You know who won? Well, the one who had the highest the highest AW, 58 won. 55, 53, the lower the AW in those rosins came down. I could judge first, second, third by the AW.
What's AW?
Water activity inside the container that keeps your cannabis or the concentrates fresh. So when it comes down to fresh frozen, active water activity, not active. So it's water activity inside of anything that's inside of a jar. So when you open this up, there's a certain amount of water activity that keeps the product of terpenes at a certain AW, right? So when you go below that, I see that the terpenes aren't there as much. So this is one thing I've noticed, and I'm writing about it right now because I've seen this, and I've had this machine for like last 8 years, it seems like, right? So I've seen this through competitions. The ones that have the freshest, that's where they win. And the stuff that's drier, it's got more terpene, but it's not as tasty. It doesn't have that freshness once you smoke it. It's harder on the lungs. So when we see the burn testing from something that's from, say, 40% AW to 60, the one that's having the 58 to 60 burns calmer and nicer on the throat because it's got more terpenes, more flavor, right? So we see that with the concentrates, and then we'll start seeing that's, if we all judged that, we all had our little meters, we did this, then it's a real competition.
Well, you hear
I mean, but then it's just a robot competition.
Okay,
I want a human
okay.
competition.
So there you go. No, that's not a robot competition. I'm saying, but I guess what you're saying. I can hear what you're saying because everybody's gonna have a different curing method. Everybody's gonna have
Well,
a different way of what they have.
I think you should use the AW, but if it's not true, like if someone shits a 40 and it still is the best, then it's the
Oh,
best,
hey,
right?
then it's the best. Yeah, no
Yeah.
doubt. I fully agree with you.
But I
Fully.
like the AW thing. I like
Yeah,
this.
it's just something that I've been learning, something that I've been seeing. Jameson knows me very well,
It's
so
a
he
good
goes,
thing to keep an eye on. I like this.
yeah,
Johnny
no,
goes down rabbit holes for the community, and then he tells us what he finds. Saves time.
yeah, I'll spend years on it, and then I'll just kind of come up with it and say, okay, this is what's going on. I
Dude,
spent
yeah,
long,
bless your
yeah.
heart, dude. Hey,
But yeah,
and I saw when you had that crash. Are you 100? I see you doing a million push-ups. You feeling 100% healthy?
Well, I've definitely it's tweaked me a little bit. I'm able to do push-ups. I'm back to doing some yoga recently. The
Cool.
last 4 or 5 days, getting back into that, and
Good.
just doing the healing process, staying healthy, eating good. Just
Good.
daily
Good.
walks. That's movement's how you heal. I've noticed that through other injuries. So it tweaked me. Well, I'm not going to say it didn't. Not
I'm
able to
glad
do a
you're. I'm
few
glad
things,
you're.
but
Glad you're doing good. I'm glad you're doing good.
blessed. Wow. Couldn't believe I had the firefighters. They got me out of there. The ambulance drivers, the 4 nurses. Like it was pretty. Just the amount of care I got out of that, and then being able to come out of that, and I was like, you know what? Like I was just grateful, especially the car. It had that brace in there, the Subaru. I can't believe I got T-boned at like 80K right on the door, right on the driver's door. And I'm here talking to you guys, a few broken ribs, like very
Ribs
lucky.
are rough, dude. Ribs are rough. I've broken ribs twice. It's not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
man. 8 and 9. So
Don't
I
laugh.
felt, and
Don't
then I tore
call.
some cartilage off the sternum, so it kind of like felt like I had a heart attack still, but
Take it slow. Take it slow. Good work. Good
no,
work.
it's good weed, good people, good energy, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then that great hash, the great terpenes. Like I just had Drake came by and had 2 in here. You can see the one that was a little greasy. I'm like, that's the one I like. The one that's drier, that's the one that's left, right? Because it's just a little bit. You see it. Like it was really nice when I did judge the concentrate with Tony and them out at Westfest, and being able to just I saw it and then being able to test it. And then I didn't test the rosin. I did the dry sift. I tested that hash part, and then noticing that difference. Like sift, I like the AW42. It makes you laugh, but I mean I like that lower AW with dry sift, right?
So is it always fleeting? Is there any way to add AW back into a product?
Well,
Is
yeah,
it just
both of
something
them
you're
would bring the
constantly
water
losing?
activity back into it, right? So, because it's a water product, it's right where other products might be other chemicals and stuff like that. So you got to be careful what products you use if you're going to rehydrate. We used to use bread, orange peels. Come on, this is everything we used back in the days, right?
Yeah, I remember the orange peel day, the
Oh,
grapefruit
come
kush,
on,
right? You
yeah,
just
yeah,
put
great.
grapefruit in the weed
Yeah.
bag.
Come on, Wonder Bread was the one too because it wouldn't leave any flavor. That was the Wonder Bread trick for a while. Throw a piece of Wonder Bread
Oh
in there.
man, I didn't get the Wonder Bread trick. That's dope.
Oh, it's Wonder Bread. It had to be Wonder Bread. It left no flavor, but put that moisture in there. And you just put a piece of Wonder Bread in overnight. In the morning, it's like, that
That's
was
so
like,
dope.
yeah.
So is there any tricks like that with hash? Has anyone thought about like a humidor of sorts, like a jar
Well,
that regulates that and keeps it present?
it
Or
has to do with the terpenes. It has nothing to do with the water at this point. It's just the amount of water that's inside that terpene head is what I'm thinking. Because it's
so
it's the
you think
terps.
there's
It's the
an
terps.
internal
Yeah, it's
trichome
water.
moisture?
It's water activity which is inside those heads. It's not as dry, so it's not water in that hash. That snap, crackles, and pop. That's 64, 68, 72. I've
Do you
seen.
think you think maybe
Right.
that meter isn't even measuring water? It's almost measuring just evaporated volatiles in the air, like whether they're evaporated water or
That's what it
terpenes.
is. It's the amount of water activity inside of a container. I open it up. I put the machine on top of it, and then I test the water that's inside. Right. Or the
Like
product, you grind up the product, you put it down there, and test the amount of water that's inside of that jar, inside that product. So you're not. So this is the. It's they do it for testing like beef jerky, Health Canada has the same little machines. They've upgraded, of course. Mine's old now, but they go around, they test water activity, and that's how they pull stuff from shelves and stuff. So it's a standard. You just get it from Meter Group. They're down in Washington. You know, great little machine.
Active water content is the amount of water present in the lattice of the phospholipid layers of the heads and its contents. And then somebody asked what unit Johnny uses. He uses the Pocket by Meter. That's a PAWKIT, one word. They're discontinued, awesome. but Meter is the group that you want to reach out to. It's an investment to get into water activity studies. There's also a group out of Israel called Gemma Cert. That's GEMMACERT, and they have a desktop unit that's THC and CBD content as well as water activity. So there's a few different ways. You're looking at a minimum investment of around $5,000 to be able to test water activity.
Don't tell people that. I know what this machine is worth, so
it's a lot. The machine that John has a lot more than 5,000, and yeah. So if you have questions about it, I've gone down that rabbit hole, and as John has as well. So feel free to reach out to either one.
Yeah. So I have calibrating solutions and stuff like that. So I reset it and stuff. I got cleaning heads for it. I used to have, I'm running out of dishes. I have to get some more and stuff like that. But it's such a handy machine. It's ridiculous. So like the last stuff I tested was 55, right? So it always holds a memory too and stuff like that. So then I know it's like just at that borderline where you're going to leave that terpene shield on top of that gland head. So then the water's going to evaporate. And then at that point, you're going to start smelling it, but you're losing that flavor, the medicinal effects, that's how I standardize my medicine, right? Yeah. Understand, it's got to be the water activity. It's not the amount of water. People are getting it wrong. It has nothing to do with moisture. I love you for saying that, Jameson. Thank you so much for really explaining that just so clearly. Wow, can you like send that to me so I can remember that? Well done.
But I'm always yelling at Jameson because he's like trying to smell the hash, and I'm like, it's not, my hash isn't for smelling. Like, I'm trying to keep all the terpenes in the hash. I don't want you to smell any terpenes at all. I want you to smoke all the terpenes.
Exactly.
I'm trying to keep them stable as can be. As soon as you can smell it, that's what you're losing. And I know that it's obviously not totally, it's an extreme version, and I'm over exaggerating it, but I always make fresh press, so people are like, I mean, I make milk too, but I make fresh press. People are like, oh, it smells. I'm like, no, it doesn't. You don't have to lie to me. I know it doesn't smell. Like, it's super stable. It smokes, So that's a good point that you bring up, and I like this. Yeah, I've never heard of any of this equipment, so I'm gonna have Jameson school me, and I appreciate you doing all the research and keeping it moving. Yeah, it's cool stuff. We need more ways to view everything because it's so much to try to comprehend.
Well, I heard you talking. I got drawn in, like I got to join this conversation. I need to talk. I don't know your name. I'm John. It's really nice to meet you. My name's Quinn.
John,
Quinn?
Nice.
Yeah.
I've seen Bubble Man's videos where you're bringing your really nice fucking weed over to his house, and he's like, yeah, this weed's all right. And I'm like, what do you mean? This weed is so nice. So
I hung it for 4 months, and he said it was fresh still, right? And I was like, yeah.
Yeah, he was like, it's still too wet, and I was like,
I'm a 4-month cure, 4-month cure, but I'm
still too wet. 4 months.
Okay, so here's the whole thing. That's holding that proper relative humidity in the room, watching your water activity in a sense, looking at moisture levels. But I even cured some stuff for like. I did the 9-month cure. I'm curious, right? So when Skunk Man said I'm stocked about those terpenes coming out in those sativas and long cures, I could associate that from jars I've had sitting for 6-7 years. We pop one there and it's like, boom, you're like, wow. Like, it's like, you haven't smelled that in that long too, right? So there's water inside that head and it's going to slowly evaporate. And if you keep it in a jar, it's going to make TanHat. He's like, we talk so much, and then he got busy. I got busy too. But talking about those terpenes and exactly what he's going to talk about too, when inside that head, and I mean, you look at the moisture levels and then the separation levels, and then I learned from TanHat exactly. I can separate no matter really what temperature of the air, as long as Yeah, it's interesting because it has nothing to do with water at that point.
Yeah, so are you like I keep my dry sift in the freezer, I keep my bubble hash in the freezer, or are you like I get it to stability and then I hold the correct environment inside of a jar? Like to you, what is the ultimate preservation storage once product is seized?
Well, you know what? For me, honestly, I I just I have shit everywhere, but what keeps it the best is normally just in the fridge and at like 1 degrees, right? 33 degrees Fahrenheit. So I don't go too cold. And like just at that point. Now the stuff that I've had in jars over years is completely, it's changed color 100%. And then I have stuff that's been in a bin here. That's the sift is completely changed, and we're talking. I got some of Horatio's first extraction here and stuff like that. This is kind of like the little jar of the extraction world over the last decade and how it's came about from everything that's being made by everybody, like straight out.
Yeah.
Like Horatio's from everything from all the new different leamines that went into the shatters and the dry sifts and stuff like that. So it's my own little research, right? So you can't. It's kind of just take. I love this plant in so many ways and how it's helped me in so many different ways. So it's understanding it and seeing it and then being able to reflect on it. Like when Mark did the first sift for me, this is the first sift. It's still sitting on that card. And now, and I kind of got a good idea how this came about and makes sense.
How
now,
long
right?
ago was that first sift? Like that had to be like 30 years ago, right?
This here's been on my card since Mark learned the method. That was 2015, I think.
Okay. So a ways back. All right.
Yeah, it's 7 years.
Yeah. Right.
But then the Congolese that we won the first place with is still sitting here somewhere.
So I often think about like two kinds of hash. One is a preserve and the other is a cure, right? And when you're harvesting fresh frozen, you're doing this stuff, you're making preserve, right? It's like kind of what you're doing. You don't want much to happen.
Okay, so this is the sift that I clean, and this is from 2014. It's still just face-down.
Very golden, like almost orange. It's awesome.
All right, so that's the Congolese sift that I clean. I kept a little bit just because I wanted, I keep a little bit of everything because that's what John does. You wouldn't know what was in here, but I could tell you what every piece of paper is in here, right? So, like here's the first leamine that Horatio made. And the funny thing was,
is that Congolese? Is that like a Durban type of profile?
Oh wow!
The Canadian is a little bit different in my anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't know that. There, you would know it more, Jameson. What would you think? I think it's more of
the church piff that is associated with like haze varietals in your mind is not as much associated and a higher terpinolene forward profile in the Canadian haze. We haven't got a lot of that church piff up here in my experience, and like the only person that I could really speak to it, and he's actually here, is Rowe. He's got a lot of experience with Canadian equatorials, but
he would be the guy.
From traveling back and forth and smoking is that like what you guys call like what you're envisioning when you're saying haze and what I believe John's envisioning are two separate things, and it's like a much like sharper Jackie Congo than like a church Congo.
Cool. Yeah, there's like I just view it as a pre super silver haze and a post super silver haze, and they're both hazes like by definition. But I noticed that some of the Congos I saw were very much of a Durban poison type, where they were terpinolene forward, but they moved to a black licorice terpinolene rather than to more of a lemon terpinolene like a Jack does. But I don't know if that was true for this one.
Definitely more of Jack leaner up here, in my experience. That black herb leaner is rare in my.
I'm smoking this,
but I just know. I think that. How you doing, TanHat?
Good. Sorry.
No worries, bro. All good. I know you're busy.
Yeah.
You've been working on anything cool lately?
Oh shit. Same old. Should be maybe having some new stuff here in a few weeks, possibly. We'll see.
What's anything making you play some things? Anything that you're thinking about a lot with the resin in recent days? Nothing comes to mind.
Just run more weight, run more weed. Shit.
Grow more better weed, right?
Look at better resin.
Absolutely.
TanHat, I'm Quinn. How's it going?
Steve.
Professor Q or whatever you want to call me.
Yeah, both very resin men of the resin.
Are you up in Canada? Are you down here? Where are you at?
I'm up in Eugene right now, Oregon.
Oh, cool. Nice. I'm Maine.
Closer.
So we're similar.
You got closer.
So TanHat is that leans on does dry sift. So he's all dry sift.
That's all.
I've never carded anything. I've never dry sifted. That's cool.
You don't
man.
need a card, so it's awesome. You can just use your hand.
Oh yeah, you're on hand tech. We've evolved. The evolution.
Yeah.
Sick. I need to buy some screens. Maybe I don't know. I'm such a perfectionist. I haven't mastered bubble hash. I can't switch teams now. I've got another decade to figure out what the hell I'm doing.
You find out what you want to do and you stay with it, and then you let the ones that know that end to do what they do.
Yeah. It's kind of how I roll.
Water hash on screens.
Yeah, I did that. That was awesome.
Wait, you took water hash and then dry sieved it? Is that what? Damn, that's sick. That's fucking sick. That sounds awesome. And that helped. You were able to go from a 95 to a 99% purity kind of thing. Get that last little bit out.
Yeah, I got shit down probably a few months back on my stories. Some fresh frozen. We ran. I think we washed some cured material too.
Cool.
Collector's item shit, man. I tell Hempwick I got boxes of this stuff still. I got enough to last me a lifetime.
That's awesome.
I know. Fuck.
Were you sieving? Are you setting your screens up in a cold room to do that? Is that the ticket there?
No, we were only in a 65. It was a 62 to 65 degree room Fahrenheit.
Did you go freeze dryer and then dry sieve it, or did you air dry it and then dry sieve it?
It was from a freeze dryer right onto screens, but what happened? It's just Zoom will show those vesicles on the trichome. It seems like they're always at a point of off gassing terps.
Vesicles? Can you back up a little bit?
The oil pathways on the outside walls of the head.
I'm not familiar with these
vesicles.
Yeah,
I got nothing.
Well,
sounds awesome.
You've seen Zoom when Zoom shows those they look like big oil hands.
Oh, the texture? I thought that was wax content in the outer.
Those are those that produce.
Oh.
As soon as you close or capture that and seal it off, whether it's in a bag or in a jar, that off gassing from the terps from, I'm guessing probably there, always that seems to be what starts greasing. So as long as after a freeze dryer you don't seal, close airtight the hash, you're able to keep it loose and be able to keep working it because it doesn't want to be in a thick enough mass of itself to want to start breaking down.
Cool. It's the opposite of a temple ball. It's as soon as you get it all together, it kind of does its own thing. But if you can keep it open and not create pressures and vacuums and kind of concentrate those terpenes.
As soon as it's in any sort of agglomerate mass, it immediately will start just condensing and compressing into itself. Because of that.
That's super cool.
Ooh.
Do you have a favorite
how are you doing?
Storage
What's
for
up
cold
with that?
resin?
Stainless steel kitchen tubs with airtight lids. And if you want to vac seal that, but then it prevents compression.
Okay, no compression, but you are still going in an airtight container. Like Tupperware would still be fine.
If that was going to be storage after it was ran, after it was like in its final stage to like just store it. Are you talking about to store it before cleaning it?
Either well, I guess for me, what I was processing would be like I'm pulling it out of the freeze dryer, I'm immediately freezing it in the chest freezer, and now I'm storing it in a parchment lined Tupperware container. But I'm wondering if having it stored in a mass collection like that in a Tupperware container in the freezer, if because they're all together and they're somewhat in a pressurized container, if they're going to start greasing on each other, basically.
If it's in a freezer, it would be a rare, I mean, a super extremely greasy resin that would have to be present
Okay.
for, yeah.
So it's
Usually-
pressure, sealed, airtight pressure, and temperature, both variables, and how they together. Okay, cool. Thanks. I really appreciate that all you guys taking the extra time to look at the resin with that patience. It's awesome.
Oh,
And talk about the what you've discovered with the mechanical or the like draw to your hand versus like a glove, nitrile glove, and that shit. TanHat.
I'm familiar with some glove tech.
Like he's like
our bodies physically have like an electromagnetic field.
Mm.
Depending on your mood, depending on your muscle, depending on your blood flow, your thoughts, you can physically control or alter or change the polarity or like the strength of like the charge of your energy field. That's the whole chi thing, which in like America we've always like laughed at or called it like not real or whatever. But
we're dumb.
There's science papers, there's peer-reviewed studies, there's documentation.
So when we talk about medicine charging, right? Are you like collecting the Congolese while thinking about energizing your patients, and then collecting like your Afghanis while thinking about relaxing people? Like, are you able to add to the experience you're expecting to cultivate for the end consumer, you think? Or how do you go about it? What's your train of thought?
Well, that's a whole other thing because THCA does nucleate under the presence of like static electricity. So if you rub long enough or are in a strong enough energy field type mood, you can very easily nucleate all the resin in your heads without rupturing heads. So like I can have like a regular resin head or like a head with a nucleated resin inside, to where like when you press it, it's butter. Like it's not. It won't ever want to be like that clear translucent state because it's already like nucleated. It changes.
You turn your oil into butter.
Yeah, and I mean all of that changes. I mean your end goal, your flavor, your experience. I mean it changes everything. So
is that nucleated product going to be a THC to THC to CBN conversion? Is that happening in that nucleation?
There can totally be like minute conversions or effects that can happen, but as far as
this is what's up on my screen right now as you're talking. Remember this video we did?
Yeah.
So this is me learning it right now.
So now I'm on the instruction line here. Oh, shit. I didn't even have you looking at me. Sorry about that.
You can hear this, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I got. Now, I do have a glove. I can go glove, but I'm curious on the hammer.
So, here's what I'm going to say. I went to Cali, and I spent a week with my people that became my closest family. And I yielded
John,
close to
bail on this.
half a
I don't
kilo
want to
to a
watch this
kilo a
fight.
day of pure
Come on.
okay?
Half.
That was
Right.
cool, but it's
It was
awesome.
losing quality too. It was like
I'd much rather hear TanHat and Quinn talk about resin than try and hear a YouTube video through Instagram Live.
Yeah, it's not going to be a YouTube video. It's going to happen in 2 seconds, but it's okay. You guys will see. I haven't released it yet. I haven't done the YouTube video yet. So.
All good.
Well, tag me when you do. Good sir.
It's
I'll find it. Not even your responsibility.
So, are you? So TanHat, like continuing down what you were kind of explaining to Q. Are you trying? So, like when you're doing your static sifting, are you like thinking positive thoughts? Is that part of your process, or have you experienced it differently when you're in different moods, or how does that work?
Usually for most people, positive thoughts releases a negative energy, and the trichome heads are negative, and that won't allow you to attract them very well if you're trying to do it barehanded. Being in like
if you want to attract positive thoughts, you have to create a negative field. That's hilarious.
Yeah, so kind of like ego broke a little bit, realizing like, whoa, so like partying with friends puts out like negative energy, and like being stressed or having that cop behind you is positive energy. Like, what the fuck? Like,
yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's trippy as fuck.
We are energy.
It makes sense for me because
Right.
I'm always freaking out that I'm ruining my hash. Everybody loves my hash, so there's something to it, I guess. I don't know.
Well, we all have an energy. Like we're like 71% water. Our brains are like 75% water. The earth is 74% or 70% water. And energy, right?
Yeah.
Take
So
all
the
the water out
plants
of your body, you'll fit in a bag about this big.
The plants are all water too.
Right?
It's
The
like,
plant's all water. It's got energy. The energy comes from the sun. It feeds the energy into the plant, right? We all have energy. My cat goes towards certain plants. It's an energy base, right? So I believe a lot has to do with your energy and oneself and positive, negative energy or whatever, the ability to probably do. Yeah, I've learned because I've been understanding it, and I do play, and of course I'm having fun myself, and really understanding. I haven't been able a chance to get on the screens for a while, but I'm gonna get back on there again. So I was having some fun. Huh?
You've been injured.
Yeah, I have a lot of this is kind of.
ribs are no joke, dude. Take it easy.
I did push-ups. That was about it.
Oh, you gotta do push-ups. I mean, it's like drink water, do push-ups, eat food.
42,000. It's a 42,000 push-up and has everything to do with committing to yourself. 42,000 push-ups in 1 year by 420 next year, and I started on April 11th. So the whole idea is I got lots of people doing it. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking, what if we try to experiment where you listen to different types of music while you collect different resins, and the person themselves try to keep a relatively clear head. Like you come to some like neutral thing. Okay, I'm gonna smoke some Kush, or you pick a strain, Bubba, like whatever's like a ground zero for you. You smoke hash. You listen to a song you hate, a song you like, a song that's positive, a song that's negative, and a few just wild cards, and we see, because it would almost be easier, I feel like, to be a conduit and let and kind of not be in the way. I think once you start trying to manipulate your emotions too much, and maybe that works too. Maybe we get that in the experiment. But there's a lot there. Like it's interesting. And
I got a frequency generator on my phone and stuff like that because I played with this in the beginning on balloons and stuff like that before I met TanHat. So I've gone through all the shady plate from Gastown. His girlfriend talked about the shady plate, all these different things that we looked through, different separation. I went down this rabbit hole for a very long time. Not a little bit. We're talking for the last like 6 years, right? So I mean, I've tried everything from balloons. I got things going. I was able to use a frequency generator and get it like at like 380 to 400. I was able to start seeing heads separate. And I talked to Tan about it, and then he goes, well, it was getting to different energies, right? So it has everything to do with energy and separation. And it really comes down to that, in my opinion, because I think that if you added well, you're the expert on it, like not me. I'm just the guy that's been kind of geeking out on it for like a while.
There's a lot more that we can do that we aren't doing, and there's a lot more look at that we're looking at. If we harness and if we control like all of the parameters that are present, we'll be able to do it a whole lot more efficiently and effectively. I don't know. There's been plants in just like 1 micron range. I mean, I'll see 3-4 different spectrums of resin just in like a 75 to 95, like
Yes.
4 different types of resins based on like 4 different types of like static pulls or like strength of their like charge or what have you.
Have you had a
Yeah.
chance to test those different heads yet for the different cannabinoids or different THC levels or anything? And we talked about this.
Still waiting for some tests back and still sending back out weekly.
Because I believe when you start in the beginning, you start doing that separation. I saw the difference of separating the terpenes, and clean terpenes out and stuff like that. So I really want to pay. I've done this. I've already had this tested and stuff like that through different separation and micron levels, and seeing that we're cleaning the terpenes out by separating and stuff like that from the full plant profile. So this is why I like First Bounce, and that's why I talk about this, right? So as we do that cleaning, I saw a decrease in terpenes.
Well, and with like, if you look at like those pictures that Zoom posts with all the vesicles on the outside of like the heads, the longer you rub or the more you clean or the longer you wash or spray, the more you would rinse or rub or wash that away, in theory. So I mean, that right there, I mean, shows proof to where the longer you would clean it or just touch it in general, the more essence you would theoretically take away from the plant or the trichome. Which could again be why maybe that first wash could be potentially better than a second or third, when usually your second or third wash would be more clean because the first wash would wash away anything or any dust or dirt that could have been there. I don't know.
Yeah, but the cleaner isn't stronger, right?
Yeah.
No, it's not. It's those terpenes, and I saw that by the cleaning of the product. I cleaned the terpenes out. The profile stayed the same, of course. THC levels were different. There was always the same profile, but the terpenes went down from 7.2 to 6. You know, just this kept dropping all the way down.
Like I'll clean anything to purity, and like maybe 10% is viable as like a melt or like quality or like properly thoroughly grown resin.
Is there so when we're talking about, what do you like to call this? Are you calling this static separation? Like, or do we have a term that we're so if we can essentially say that there's some way to grade, so let's just say you catch a 73 bag, 73 to 159 is where I like my general high quality select spectrum, right? So, and then if in that you could take that and instead of doing a dry seed or a bubble hash, which is the same thing, right? You're using micron size. We can use this static charge methodology to create a spectrum of gradients, kind of like you were saying with the balloon, right, Johnny, where you were almost saying like contaminants were high and resin was low, and there was a spectrum in between. Like maybe we can create a static spectrum in which we can grade in perpendicularity to the way you grade with a with the micron size.
So
I don't.
Every terpene hydrocarbon has a different charge. So like you can have enough of one terp that's strong enough with one charge that can cancel out the charge of the head. So like we have to physically know all of the terpenes in our heads, know which we would want to select before even trying them, and then decide, okay, that's what we want to go and isolate.
Okay.
So
what if you were just moving away from non-head? So if you were just saying pile of hash, and now you've got a cylindrical spectrum of charges, and you're just attracting your resin to any and all charges, and you're just saying non-chargeable products stay centered, chargeable products get gathered.
That's why I like to always do static dead last, because I like to clean to purity and then use static to separate any isolation, see what may be there.
I like this.
I mean, just between like a paint roller, a glove in your hand, I mean, you can get like 6 different isolations or like levels of like a strength of a charge for like different separations or isolations. And there's more you can still do than that.
Can we polarize? So you have like a strong charge over here and then an opposing charge over here and try to get the pile to spectrumize?
Yeah.
Have you done that?
Comes down to is you'll get your separations, which will be like a 60-40, like 60% what you want, maybe 40% what you don't want. Rerun those, and then you rerun both of those, and it ends up coming down just like a round robin type thing, where you end up having 10 isolations, rerunning all of them so many countless times. It's such like a
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for doing that.
Like such like a mindless like chase, to where cleaning to purity, isolating maybe a few things. If there's something you don't like in it, you can kind of see if you can pull something away from it that may be specifically throwing that off, which kind of is nice because you can't necessarily do that with I mean, picture if you had a really good melting resin, but there was like just that one trait in it that made it want to taste kind of grassy or kind of hay-like because of that one, who knows?
Even just what's they call when they oxidize, just disc cells that are oxidized. If you could just get them isolated out potentially, that'd be super nice. And not saying there's anything wrong with oxidized disc cells, but it would be cool because mechanical separation based on size is never going to be able to separate those. So you'd be much better off having a secondary thing to separate something like that, because that's going to oxidize all your hash when you mix it together for aging.
And if you look at like any of my macros from when I would do static or cleaning with just doing like a straight line, like parchment or something for static, you'd always see like a little nub. Like you could always tell like where the head specifically like got broken off from like its stalk. Like there was always just like a little nub. When you physically get into like a round rubbing, just like making a dough or just like making any other ball for any other industry, it physically like rounds up those heads and like breaks off every last like little crispy cell that's not a part of that gland membrane, to where you get these like perfectly round like little.
Whoa. It's like damn. Okay. So it's like you have that wad of cookie dough, but now you're rolling it into a perfect ball. What might have been, and you're getting those little bits off from the, near the break point or whatever. Man, that's crazy, dude. That's a lot, and it takes a lot of money. Like what you're doing is charity work. I mean, both of you guys, Johnny, you too. Like what you guys are doing is fucking charity work. Like by doing this and taking this,
we love it.
I mean, we all love it,
That guy's passion right there. The way he gets into his resin is just like me. Like that's the way we talk. Like Horatio, certain people you can just kind of go down the rabbit hole like crazy. Like I want to, like you talk about. Have you done any live sift yet?
No.
I'm curious on this now, so I'm gonna take the weed I have in my freezer. I got a freeze dryer coming, new one. I'm going to freeze dry the weed, and then I want to clean it, and I want to do live. So we talked about it. I'm curious. And if it doesn't work, whatever, who cares, right? I've wasted so much weed. It's ridiculous.
Chilled. I mean, there's so many different things you could chill to help with that, right? You can get the screens really cold, those aluminum frames.
How do you know that certain terpenes change the electrical charge of certain glands?
You physically look at the molecular structure of the trichome or the terpene. You like literally like counting the rings, like, and physically counting the electrons and protons and seeing how many electrons it'll either give or receive under the presence of.
So I don't know if you're familiar with this, TanHat. It's news to me, but Harry, if you know Harry Rosette Wellness, he was talking about that. When things are in matrix and they're actually still inside of the trichome head, there's actually single or double bonds that actually connect the cannabinoids and the terpenes together. And they're not hard connected, but they are physically connected by a bond. So I don't know if it's almost like you want the positive or negative charge of the whole entourage all at once. It's like, oh, overall, this profile has a +3. But I don't know.
That's where it comes into like, so overwhelmingly, like what's it's math and fractions. Like what is of the 100% of the head, what is the 100%? 70 to 80, 90% will be your cannabinoids. Well, those are all negatively charged. but then you have to look at the terps. Well, then when you go and look at your terps, well, then if there's all of these different charges that can be strong enough in a terp to cancel to counteract a 70% mass charge, what about all the thiols? What about all the esters? What about all the sulfur? What about everything else? It's like we'll be there someday, like truly, like when we want to isolate trichomes that specifically have like just these. I mean, you could have a field of multiple genetics, and you could isolate just specific profiles. So like that's where I guess I could see it coming in hand.
You watch everything together and then sort it out all later,
Yeah,
like
that.
Kill them all and let God sort it out kind of thing. That's pretty cool.
That would be more easy or more viable, or that'll be done more quickly and sooner than being able to physically pick out specific terpenes or flavors of one genetic, for sure.
I like the idea of picking one or two things that you don't like about your end result and isolating that out rather than trying to. I think splitting things into a million piles is absolutely superhero level shit, and we all commend you. But just being able to get a few problem things potentially out and isolated is probably practical.
You usually like, and it'll be weird. Just you do, there'll end up being maybe like a 10 to 20% of like an outlier part of the resin. That outlier may either be like the dog shit, the reason why it's so fucking bad, or maybe the reason like so special and so good. Like, whoa, what, like, where, what? So it's kind of nice to be able to see that or do that, especially at the times when like that little bit of outlying like resin that like looks really good and you try it. Like, why is this not wanting to be in with the rest of the pile? And it's like, oh, that's why. Well, I'm glad it's not. It's
yeah. Because whether it's way better or way worse, you're still glad you got it separate, right?
That's why it's always, you got to clean it and try it. You got to know what you're working with. I was at a couple spots, like literally couldn't try any. Yo, what up? What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, like, I mean, to the other side of that coin, like any person who thinks that you shouldn't pull your melt out before you squish your rosin would disagree with that statement. That's all I was playing. Devil's advocate. Is like, you know, if it's the best stuff, if it's the best of the best, and you are somebody who is against pulling melt, you would want that shit in, not out.
Oh, 100%. And that's again, that's why static is not something I ever focus on or ever say I do something is static or a step. It's the last step because there's times it's not even needed. There's most definitely. And those are usually those strains that are the best, meltiest, usually those special strains that you can just tell. It's just gas all the way through. Like it truly is special, grown to its full everything.
Doesn't need the help.
Right.
Yeah, it's fucking this is really cool stuff, you know. I think I think people talk a lot about ultrasonically separating trichomes off the plant and all this stuff. I feel like we're pretty good at getting the trichomes off the plant, and it's not actually where we need to like reinvent the wheel. Both dry sift and water hash are both extremely good at their job. But this idea of, you know, being able to get out the last 5% impurities out of a melt product, that would take. I mean, that last 3% takes so much time to clean. You know, so it's cool.
Able to wash for like an hour and a half straight, just do one single pull, and then just clean it all afterwards in an hour or two. So much time and like weight of pulling bags and.
Yeah, number of bags. It's a big deal. Like, how many bags do I have to pull today? If I'm pulling every bag versus just, you know, 2-3 bags, it's a big difference.
It's a huge difference.
Yeah.
That's why I like the sift, right? Because all that other stuff's work.
Shout out George Greenthumb. Shout out LA Family Farms. He's been teaching this backwatching for a minute. I mean, I don't think he invented it, but he's producing fire.
I don't know what backwashing is. This is a mythical term I've heard, but never, no one's explained it to me.
I don't know if I'm the person to explain it because I've never done
It's
it.
okay.
The theory of it, but
Okay.
it's you're running your whole wash basically, and your bags are inverted, or else you're just running with a 25 and you're catching everything, and you're washing very aggressively, and you're washing for a.
I'm already nervous. You're making me nervous.
Bro. And you catch everything. And some people will do this with like an electric type mixer, like aggressive stuff.
Well,
Okay,
yeah,
like power mixing, collecting, and then sieving out. Sorry.
Yeah, and then you pull your 25, and then you run.
Dude, so we did everything back in the days. That's all it was. Then we compress it with a little press.
No, and then
and get the Havens drill. I still have the paddle. We sit there in a bucket, and we go like the foam all on the top, and we spend like half an hour doing this shit. I'm dead serious, man. That's what I used to do.
Johnny, I'm not just talking about snagging your 25 and pressing it. I'm talking about
it's so bad back then.
You snag everything, and then you run your whole bag set down to your 40 the right way, and you fucking wash that through, and you do that a few times, and that's how you isolate. That's more or less how I understand backwashing take place. There's a way you set.
That could be efficient.
A continuous pump.
I'll literally put my sift through my like my like my 250, my 220, and like a 160 bag, but screen like 3, 4, 5 times before going down to the smaller bags, and the screens, and just from re-screening, it gets insanely cleaner. And
that's fucking interesting.
How does it get cleaner? What are you catching on the second time you're feeding it through that's going through, or like how is it going through the first time?
Contaminants
screen it and it catches it. Like what?
Contaminants are lighter, and they're usually not perfectly round, so they usually don't fall the same in the wind or like the air or the water as they would if it was just like a perfectly like round object.
Yeah.
Like ping pong balls and butter knives. Like every once in a while, butter knife's gonna make it through, but a ping pong ball's always gonna make it through the same way.
Every
right?
time it falls through, it basically kind of wants to do like a little flutter picture, and there's chances of it wanting to kind of land on its side or land on a spot that already has heads covering it or what have you.
Got you.
If you sat there and just kept spraying like as hard as you could, or if I just rubbed as hard as I could rub all of it through the same screens, the same just repeatedly, and it wouldn't do anything. It's getting lighter and lighter each time, and each time like progressively like separating out like a little bit more. Like if you use 220 bags, that second 220 bag would catch a little bit of contaminant that wouldn't make it into like your.
That's true. I've seen that. I've done that.
Just like if people use a 220 and they use like the zipper bag, like the zipper like enclosed wash bags, and they'll still do a 220. Same thing.
Gotcha. I see you.
I've seen people tumble in the tumblers with 150 micron screens, and for some reason I can catch a bunch of shit on a 220 or 200 micron screen. How does that get through a 150 micron tumbler? I don't know, but I've seen it time and time again every place I've ever seen a tumbler.
So when you're rescreening, we'll call it, or whatever, unless you have a term, if you're rescreening something through the same thing, are you trying to work with density and against like anything that's light as a feather? You're trying to not allow that stuff through, but you're trying to push your rocks through, right? So you want your rocks to kind of fall through this grate, but you want your light stuff to kind of float above it?
As each stage of rescreening happens, the level, I guess, of pressure decreases, and it becomes more of like an agitation and less of like a physical trying to work something through the screen. More of like the first time screening, you'll like physically be trying to work everything through the screen. As you get to like the second or third, it's more of like a light agitation and not so much a physical, like trying to push or work anything through the mesh, but it's more of lightly working it around. So then your round heads will want to fall through, and the lighter shit will want to keep brushing around on top.
Doesn't have enough density to actually work its way through. Wow, that's fucking deep, bro. It's fucking deep.
I was gonna say something that I got an overabundance of being high again.
Nice work.
Like shit, my brain went somewhere else for a second.
Holy shit.
Yeah, no, if you can take some of this and you know, translate it. I mean, I guess we're already talking about how to apply it to water hash.
Yeah, can't we like ionize like polarized water?
Is there a way, TanHat, is there a way that we take this philosophy of density versus, what are we calling this? Just basically density sifting is what you're talking about. You're not even talking about size sifting. You're talking about density sifting, where you're letting the dense, heavy resin heads fall through and the light, flaky stalks and plant materials kind of stay above. Is there a way that we can do that with water and not just with dry material? Have you, I'm assuming you've probably already done that because you seem like a really smart guy.
I haven't personally. I don't know what all. I have a buddy that's played a lot. I don't know. I don't know. I'm curious. Done. Like if we could. I don't know.
If you did it by not using any water pressure, I think that would be the way to do it. So imagine you take a gallon of water in like a jug and you actually put it in the bag with all the resin, and now you're kind of moving the bag side to side, and you could actually put like a ring inside the bag and move the whole bag side to side so you have no downward water pressure or force, and you actually would keep you wouldn't move the water through the bag. You would keep the whole bag slightly in water. So the whole bag is suspended through the top third of the water, and then the next bag is in the next 2/3 of the water down. And by just moving the screen, the dense stuff should actually fall through with weight, and the light material should just kind of stay in the top bag without enough momentum to actually make it through the screen.
So you just went so deep, so quick.
You're smart as fuck.
I know. I think we should all be
really
talking
dumb
about
at a lot of stuff, but some things I'm pretty smart at.
Quinn is smart as fuck.
This could work. I'm gonna build a little ring. I mean, all it is frisbee tack from cannoli when you just cut out the center of the frisbee and install it in your thing and move it underwater with some handles on it, right? You need a bigger frisbee for a 30-gallon bag set, but I think this is good. This is a good plan. I think I like this. I'm about to wash. I think I'm 10 days out from my next wash cycle. So
what do you think, Tan? How do you see your fucking brain moving over there?
Does all of your resin sink?
Yeah, resin is denser than water, right? By a pretty substantial amount. It's basically slow-mo air tech, right? Because air tech is like resin's a lot denser than air, but resin's actually only a little bit denser than water. So it would be like doing what you're doing, but you're like in Matrix mode, right? You should get the slow-mo version.
I don't know why, but like half my resin floats.
No way. I bet you it floats just because there's a little bit of air attached to it, maybe. Like maybe if you can, I don't know.
The water washes, half his resin floats.
So what I see when I pull my bag, like if I'm washing and I pull you pull your work bag to the side and you look down in, I just see like a swirling. I don't see like necessarily a sinking or a floating, but when I go look in my hourglass in the bottom of my Bruteless, shit eventually is like, it's like snow globe effect. Eventually it all fucking falls, but it appears as though none of it's moving to the bottom, like at a distance. But when you look at the bottom, it's like it is collecting. But yeah, maybe.
What if we separated some of those densities in water?
That's what I want to talk about. Yeah. So we talk about using like jets or air going up into the air and then pulling screens through and separating the densities as like a dropping through water, like a first bounce effect, but through water.
Like ball valves on top of each other in the bottom of your stainless steel vessel, and you could literally. You'd have to
Centrifuge?
between each level or like screening between, but and then after settling, like make it so the screen can like turn and like close off maybe, so then they won't.
I'd go right into a freeze room, you know, like into this single wall. I've had this vision in my head, kind of like flux capacitor. We've talked about this. I love talking about this. It's like there's got to be a way, right? There's got to be this other way.
And or at least like a little, you know, just an inch forward. Just an inch forward with the frickin'
2
what we already
millimeter
know.
shift. That's all we need. Just a 2
Yeah,
millimeter
yeah.
shift. It's always
Or
those little extra 2 millimeters, right?
always 1 micron away, right?
Yeah, you're only 2 millimeters away from being the greatest and the best, and that's with any race, with any runner, with anything. It's just finding that next little edge, right? And that's what we're all striving to find. We all have the same passion. Like, whoever
Instagram just be kicking people out, man. Poor Johnny.
we got the boot.
Man, we just got the.
I know you ran out of time. You've done this lots in the past. Stay on too long.
Don't worry, that one's going back up live. That'll be up live later this evening.
You think I'll be back on? Hit the save button.
What were you saying, Johnny? You remember?
Oh, talking about jets and then talking about how we're going to do the separation and be able to pull. Like really just, it's the same way as like a first bounce or something like that, but letting that hash fall through the water instead of it collecting, going through bags and down. Why aren't we collecting it as it's falling, it's just separating in the water? You got the bag in the ice, it's sitting there and thinking, you're washing however it is. We're busting it up, it's going through all this other mechanism, going through a bunch of screens. Why can't we harvest it in that water? So I was saying using jets with water spraying.
Johnny V's gone.
It was so weird. It said Johnny was talking, and then it said Johnny B is unable to join. And then it just kicked Johnny.
Did his phone die? I know he wasn't very good at watching his phone battery.
Yeah, that's very. Nope, he's here, so. You gotta kick him out.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to talk about it, I guess. I'll forget it.
You're allowed. Are you back?
Yeah, they keep kicking us out, so there's no more of me talking about it, I guess. I can't,
No, it's fine, Johnny. You're allowed to talk about it.
Every time I keep getting cut off, so I'm just I'm done.
Is Johnny frozen for you too, or just me?
Am I frozen now?
It's not frozen for me.
Oh, shit.
No, it's all good. You're good, bro.
Look into, and it's going to be more for the home guy, right? So why I don't need $1 million. Why can't I do? It's for the guy with. It's got to be all about home. It's got to be all for that. One thing is about what TanHat's been showing us and what we've discovered is that anybody can do this at home. I don't need $1 million machines or have all this work and stuff like that. It's a lot of work to make really good hash, right? Honestly, but if we can do it in seconds or in minutes where it's not going to cause us any pain or anything like that, or it's just something that's convenient, that's what the end goal is. And be able to do that now is great, but be able to do that with water hash, be able to do the separation without having to pull bags and do all this stuff, there's got to be another way. That's all I was saying.
Yo, Quinn, explain what you just came up with, your idea.
Yeah. So, and I think I've isolated the two main obstacles that we need to, maybe three. There's probably three main obstacles you need to keep in mind when we try this technique. So basically what you're going to do is you're going to pull your, okay, so you're going to have a trash can with all your bags. The trick is that the whatever bag you decide to be your high grade bag, so whether you want that to be your 90, for this experiment, we're going to try to collect 90 through the 90 bag and the 120 bag, and so between 90 and 159, right? So we're actually going to take our 120 bag and we're going to leave it on the rack. So you're going to run your 90 bag with your 160 bag, and then a let's just say a 220 work bag for sake of discussion. So what you want to do is you want to put all your bags where they need to be in the water column so that they actually don't ever create suction, because suction is gonna distort our results. Water and water pressure is gonna distort all of our results. So I think you're gonna put all the bags in the very bottom. Then you're gonna put all the water in the container. We may have to come up with a water container filling protocol. So maybe you might need to have it hit something so that it evenly disperses. You don't get all your water to one place. You fill your container up with water. Then you very, very, very slowly, the slower the better, move all your bags to their designated heights. So you would have, let's just say your 90 bag can be as low as you want, but your 150 bag or your 160 bag, which is actually your sieve, needs to be just 2-3 inches below the water line, we'll say. So you got your water line and you got your 160 bag. You're going to insert some type of ring, like just say a Frisbee or a giant donut of some type, and into that bag, to get it pretty taut. And then basically you're going to jostle it like this, side to side, and you're going to try to get everything to slowly fall through, just like TanHat was saying. And by doing only side-to-side motions, if you pull up on this bag at all, you're going to create a vacuum and you're going to pull undesirables through the screen. So you can never pull up on the bag, and you can't pull down either because it's going to remix everything, right? So you just got to be the being side-to-side and not creating a vacuum of any type is really the name of the game. And then a little bit of setting those bags initially, that could distort our results a little bit, but we'll call that like negligible. I think that, the primary thing is like, going to be that jostling and not creating a vacuum. And then I think you would just end up with whatever's left in your 160 bag. You would just drop that into your 73 bag, at the very bottom. And it doesn't have to be trash or anything, but this could get us for me, if I'm pulling melt, I'm pulling usually the 90 bag and the 120 bag, and sometimes they're both melt, but sometimes one or the other is melt. In this circumstance, I'm trying, usually the heads are bigger and juicier in the 120, but there's more particulate. And the heads are not as juicy, but there's less particulate in the 90. And most people, that's why 90 is their melt. But really, I think the 120 is of a higher quality. It's just also dirtier. So if you can get that whole thing to be collected together, but slightly cleaner by doing this horizontal underwater sieving tech, then I think you could make some really, really, really nice melt, even with heavier agitation or dirtier starting material. So this could be really helpful for people on the West Coast, or people growing outside with dustier, dirtier environments, or just really everybody. I mean, hash can always be fucking cleaner, right? I mean, I grow inside and I'm super meticulous, and I still think my hash could be cleaner. And when I grow outside and it's beautiful, I still want it to be cleaner too. So both are good.
Why wouldn't you just pull your 120 and your 90 and then dry or static sift it after you pull it out of the freeze dryer?
Because I don't own screens. That's a whole thing I have to buy, and now I have to set up a cold room just for screening that has to have the right humidity. It's not that this is better, it's that it's the lowest amount of work for the most increased value overall, I think.
But in also a perfect world,
is everything?
But in a perfect world, if you had the ability and you had the screens.
I don't think you need a cold room.
Go ahead, TanHat.
I can't even get my hash to receive.
What?
I can't even get my hash to receive without being in a freezer. It's really hard to work my resin if it's fresh frozen.
Even after the freeze dryer? Or are you air dry?
Yeah. I literally thought my freeze dryer was broken. And then Mission Hill was like, dude, your freeze dryer is fine. Your resin is really good. I was like, oh, okay. So I wasn't even able to sieve in my cold room at 50. I had to be below 50. And even some strains, it wasn't working. Then I started sieving in my chest freezer, and I was like, okay, this is way better. So I don't know. You know,
In Spain that put screens in a chest freezer and do it in chest freezer. There's a guy in Kovlo that does it in a chest freezer.
that would be nice. I would definitely consider that. If I could get some small 2-footers and drop them in a special chest freezer and put a dome, like a tent dome over my chest freezer and just work in there and card, like I'd be super into that. I like that a lot. That sounds really fun. But this may be the least man hours for the most results.
Inside of like a little grow tent with like a dehu. And if that would even work as like a freezing room temp to be able to work it.
Yeah, you'd want the dehu as an exhaust. Like you'd want the dehu on the outside of the tent, but it'd be like piping dry air in almost. Because you wouldn't want the auxiliary heat.
You know what, guys? I can end up with you guys on this all night, but I'm gonna fall asleep. I just did love you.
Peace, brother.
Appreciate you.
Have a good night, Johnny. Peace.
Peace again, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Interesting, boys.
I honestly love. I think someone should make a sieve that's a little more like designed for what we're talking about, even with like some sidewalls maybe. Like I think that could be really fucking nice to have. Cause like basically right now I'm using a fucking, a sieve for pasta and it's pretty awful and it's really hard to clean, and it doesn't chill itself. Like if we could design a self-chilling sieve too, now you're like really cooking with gas. So there's a lot there to be made in the post freeze dryer, like freeze dry sieving, like that whole bridge there is pretty big bridge. Yeah. I want a hand chilled fucking auto chilled fucking sieve. Be sick.
Bro, the quality is just gonna get better and better. It's fucking awesome. Got guys like Q trying to figure out how to sieve his fucking already fire melt in a free. I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing. I'm like, amazing.
You're gonna have to see how good it is. You're the judge, Jameson.
I'll be there.
I'm gonna need some input. I think there's a lot of good hash. I know in my world between the 90 and 120, and it's not always coming out like full melt. And I think it could be. I think we could pretty easily do that with this density tech that you're talking about, and maybe sometimes adding the extra step and sometimes not, and splitting the difference. There's a lot there.
We looked at with like macros at our water hash. There's a lot of times where you'd be surprised how dirty it actually is. And
yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
Q, I don't know if you can see this comment, but the machinist lounge asked, after the side to side agitation, how do we pull the bags without making a vac and pulling shit through anyways?
Dude, that's a fucking super good question. So what you would do is you would invert pull your bag out. So you would actually now, once it's done, you remove the ring, and now you actually push the bag down and out of the fucking water, because your 90U bag is all the way in the bottom of your barrel. So you're just going to make sure that the bag is under negative internally, under positive pressure. I don't know which pressure, but you get what I'm saying. Don't pull shit out of the fucking bag. So just like shut it and just shut it and fucking push it out and up through. Or you could even like kind of just close it a little bit and go under it with a bowl and just pick it up with a bowl and be like, you're fucking out of here. Get out of here.
Yeah, that's a great fucking answer, bro. That's awesome.
Thanks for asking that question. That was such a good question, dude. I didn't think of that until you asked the question. So thank you. What are we calling this? Underwater horizontal sieve tech, I think, is the super long format name. So inspired by TanHat, vomited out of my brain. Thanks, TanHat. Narrated by Jameson.
That's dope. That's cool. I'm so into that.
This is pretty good. What do you think about having a round sieve, like a bowl, like when it's a kind of a bowl? So when you're in the freezer, you don't have to be quite as careful about knocking shit out. I think you could sieve kind of faster and a little more, I guess, aggressive isn't good though, right?
Have you ever noticed how like if you took loose resin and you put a flame to it or heat to it and immediately just like turns to a ball? Just, I mean, if you did it with a piece of shatter, the same thing.
Yep.
The heads themselves will want to attract themselves with like given enough friction or like enough agitation or movement.
Energy.
So having a flat screen and working in like a centralized like area allows your contaminant to constantly be working away from your mass. So it literally rubbing enough, you'll be left with purity in a ring of contaminants.
Wow.
So I like my screens with the screen face up and the frame down, so that way I just work my contaminants off the screen.
Cool. Yeah.
So like you can go both ways, but then you just end up having to deal with more shit.
Yeah. So maybe it's like if for production, right? It's not always the end of the world if you have a little bit of contaminant, like, small particulate when you're sieving, for rosin making, right? So maybe you flip it upside down for rosin, for high-end rosin sieving, but then to your point, use the total flat so you can doom all the particulate off of the trays. So I know nothing about sieving, so I'm appreciating the outlook on sieving, but I never thought of that, working your contaminant out from the center. That's really nice.
Have you ever noticed you have a jar of like your loose resin and you just shake it a little bit, you can move your contaminants to the top, or like the fluffy stuff. But look at it with, if you ever take a jar of like 30 grams, 15 grams of heads and just shake it like in your cold room or in your freezer, you can look at it and like 3/4 of the bottom looks like it's so dense it almost compacted itself. And that top little bit will always look kind of like light and fluffy. That's where your heads with stalks attached, your stalks and your little bit of contaminant is. You can literally jars, like if you overfill jars, you could shake them and then I'll dump them out and have purity. Like that's another quick way of kind of cleaning.
That's nice.
But I mean, that led to like, well, what if we had a big cone and just had it like vibrating and have like all your contaminants go to the top and just be able to like brush it off? Or
are you familiar with winnowing?
Yeah. So winnowing and thrashing is like, I personally like to use like a drywall, like a putty scraper. And when you tap on the screen in the air and as they bounce, your heads usually will, if you do it with light air movement, the heads will want to stay in place. The contaminant will want to be like floaty and like float away. Or if you go really move the trichome heads really far and control where they go, and the contaminant just kind of wants to float and land back in about the same place. So you can do it to go.
That's really fucking sick.
Crashing, static, it all, there's, once you get like the right friction and speed, you can hear like a little like sound squeal that seems to come off every time. And it always seems to be between like a 385 to like 435, 440 hertz, always the same sound. It's always the same vibration. The heads always move. It's kind of, it hits it all. It's weird.
Damn, that's fucking sick. Yeah. Cause I mean, I like the thrashing. There's a lot of density manipulation that you've spent an insane amount of time. And I really appreciate you sharing your experience with all this density manipulation stuff. Cause unless you have giant jars of resin, you can't fucking figure it out. I mean, like you can't see it without jars of resin. So
I've sat there with vacuums, just like bouncing heads and like just trying to vacuum off the contaminant on top.
Yes, that's awesome. That's fucking awesome. Yeah, has there been any cyclone experiment? Like, because a cyclone would move the dense stuff to the center, kind of, right?
It helps moving a lot of the lighter density, but you still have to refine everything else. The same as what you'll notice usually in like your the other types of contaminant that you have in like water hash isn't just like veg matter or like stalks.
There's that foam. Fucking hate that foamy shit.
But you have like organic matter. You have like mineral content. You have like ground earth, like pieces of like silica, like clear, stony, rocky. And you'll notice that sediment in the bottom of your wash vessel sometimes. It's like grainy sand that's not resin.
So,
it's like
salty bullshit.
Yeah. So like you still have to clean that out, and that's always the hardest to want to clean out because it's so heavy, because it's so dense, and because the size doesn't want to break down.
Yeah, because there is going to be some stuff that's denser than resin, right? Like all this silty, sandy shit is going to be denser than resin. So now your density manipulation to get rid of the light stuff is only going to work for that end of it, right? Coming up with some of these, because even if you have a few different tricks and they all quickly get rid of like 2% of the contaminant, now you got rid of 6% really quick, rather than like something that, okay, you can get rid of all 6%, but it takes you 10 hours. It's like, it's a little rough, right? I like this.
What that guy's talking about in the comments is called somatics.
Yeah, man.
Somatics
Resonance.
is another thing yeah.
It's kind of what we were talking about earlier.
And that comes into needing that predetermined, okay, I want to isolate this. You have to know beforehand what you want to isolate in order to target it.
Right.
There's times if I would just want to target a size range, that size isn't the best in that full like spectrum.
Yeah, but if you put out like a large sample size of different gland heads on a large surface and played a number of different
with the best same spot, that'd be cool.
You would if you played a bunch of different frequencies and then somehow like moved the plate so that those frequencies could lay out on the plate and collect where they lie, like the same way that you see sand moving on those videos. I think that you might be able to learn what frequencies are effective to what size and desirable gland, and then from there you have a little bit more information to act on.
It would be cool to see if like no matter what genetic, what strain, what size head, but if like the ideal one that was always like unanimously like kind of like the best standout size or whatever, if it always wanted to lie in like the same spot and like the range on like the same area, that'd be cool to find.
To me, like the first thing we should do is take one of these fucking tables that probably cost a few grand that people put sand on.
Yeah, that's
fucking enough. Wipe all the fucking sand off it and just dump some full spec on it and see what the fuck happens. Like, who's got one of these tables?
So,
where can we borrow one?
I don't think you actually need different resin heads to go to different places. You just need to move resin head. And as long as it's a resin head, it's allowed to be in the pile. And everything else can get fucked, right? So you just have to say, so if you go to move stuff and everything moves except the most dense thing stays behind, you can get rid of the sand and silt. Then you do it again and the next densest thing gets left behind. That's your resin heads, and your new pile is also all trash. So you might be able to move things around and back and forth between a few different shapes and keep like leaving behind different amounts of contaminant until you're slowly just removing a little bit of the shoulder densities while maintaining the dominant density, which is trichome heads. Like that could be decent.
Yeah. The machinist lounge just said just a speaker pointed at a plate.
Yeah, no, and that works really well. That's something that we used to do a while ago, and that's something a buddy of mine down in San Francisco still does to this day. Beautiful fucking table with his speakers hooked up, and I mean, he's never been able to get much different isolations or anything other than like what ends up happening once you have like vibrations is it speeds up the molecules just like you're heating it up. So you end up getting everything wanting to stick or tract or bind to itself in a way as if it's much warmer than it is. So that's why vibration. That's why you haven't seen this crazy vibration sieve that to just flick a switch and you got purity real quick. It won't happen because it won't work. It sucks.
You're adding energy, and energy is heat.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering if so. Like the hardest thing that I ever have to separate is like that last little bit of like vegetative contaminant. That's always like the freshest. Like veg matter is usually the opposite charge of the heads, but if it has enough moisture in it, then it wants to be the same charge as the heads.
Okay. So you're talking
So,
like chlorophyll or stalks or something else?
like green and purple or black veg matter, like physical plant vegetative matter. And like it's usually about the same density because of the moisture content or active water content or whatever you want to refer to it as.
Mm-hmm.
But it's different shades, but it's the same kind of. I'm just wondering if somatics or if like that frequency would be beneficial in trying to separate that away. Usually once I act almost about the same, it's just not perfectly round.
I wonder if because trichomes are so round, if you could like fucking just roll them down some shit, and other stuff would just wouldn't roll, and the resin would just roll all down.
Rolling them uphill and cleaning them on their way.
That sounds cool.
Yeah. Give me a bit.
Cool. I like that. Yeah, I think that cookie dough analogy you had earlier of how when you're rolling them, you're also like slightly purifying them was really interesting. Like that was pretty mind blowing.
How quick we can roll every single individual head is how quick we can clean it. And it's all old mining, food grain industry, receiving techs from multiple industries.
Just at larger scales. Like our resin is so small, right? It's like you're doing what you do with corn, but tiny. I like this.
This was a very good conversation, boys.
Yeah. We should probably all get some sleep.
We got to think about this. We'll talk about this soon.
TanHat, this was a great first time meeting you. I feel like this was very productive first interaction with another human. So keep up the good work.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah, dude, I'll shoot you a message. Have some fun.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace, everyone.